The Dragon's Dogma 2 controversy is a very bad look for Capcom in a game that had a ton of pre-launch hype. You had YouTubers and media websites all over the place praising this game for its creative combat, intuitive world, and so much more. It got reviews upward of 9s and 10s. It has an 87 on Metacritic. Things are going absolutely incredible. Some even saying this is this year's Elden Ring overall. And then that all came crashing down recently because as the game went live for everyone, there was microtransactions that were introduced in the game that definitely raised some eyebrows about Capcom's structure for the game, and then also had a fierce debate amongst fans saying if this is something that we should complain about or have outrage. Is it not? All of this stuff can be earned in game. And in this video, we're going to break down exactly both sides a bit, what's been happening, YouTubers that have been embroiled in the controversy and kind of like catching strays left and right from Capcom's decision, and what it means overall, because I find this fascinating to the review culture. Right now, there is a lot of distrust between fans, some core fans, and the media, and now YouTubers are now getting into the fray, and it's just getting absolutely wild. But at the end of the day, if you make it to the end of the video, I think overall you're going to see why this is just a bad look in terms of what Capcom is doing and what they should do going forward. Now, I do want to make sure that I stress that Capcom has done this before. Capcom has put microtransactions in their games before. Resident Evil 4 and other titles have it, but I think the biggest problem with what I'm going to talk about here is what's happening when it comes to comparing it with other games and the type of microtransactions that are in this game for the style of game that it is. Context is everything when you're talking about an open world RPG compared to, like, let's say something like Resident Evil that doesn't have all the elements that a game like Dragon's Dogma 2 has. But before we get more into it, what's good everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, click that notification bell, and check out the link in the description below because we are giving away 10 digital copies of Princess Peach Showtime and a Nintendo Switch OLED this Sunday. So make sure you check out the link and get yourself subscribed and get into our stream that we're having. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Let's start off with exactly what's going down with the microtransactions. So now Capcom has directly addressed Dragon's Dogma 2 players on Steam, saying this, quote, "We would like to update you on the status of the following items, about which we have received numerous comments from the community. To all those looking forward to the game, we sincerely apologize for any inconvenience." In its note to PC players, writes IGN, Capcom listed all the items that can be obtained in-game or as paid DLC items. The Art of Metamorphosis, which is the character editor. Ambivalent Rift Incense, which makes you change pawn inclinations. Port Crystal, Warp Location Marker or Fast Travel. Wakestone, Restore the Dead to Life. 500 Rift Crystals, 1500 Rift Crystals, or 2500 Rift Crystals. Points to spend beyond the rift. Makeshift Gao Key, Escape from the Gao, and Harpy Snare Smoke Beacons. Now, Capcom is also just stressing that you can get all of these items in-game by just playing, and multiple different content creators and reviewers have also stated that they never felt the need or had to do that when it comes to collecting any of these things. Now, another big problem, it's not just the microtransactions. When it comes to the performance of the game, PC players are quite upset. Some of them have big beefy rigs, the 40 series graphics cards or the 30 series graphics cards, and they're having performance problems, issues, bugs, and glitches. So there's problems even with the best PCs out there. Now, I watched IGN's performance review, which is pretty good if you're looking for an alternative to Digital Foundry or something else. IGN did a pretty good job with theirs, and it shows off exactly what it is and breaks it down. And yeah, there's definitely an issue because if you have a 40 series graphics card, you probably shouldn't be having any performance issues on any of their games. Now, Capcom isn't known as the best PC developer, and they are using that Denuvo turbo DRM thing that's probably jacking up performance as well. But even if you look at on the consoles, that sometimes dips into the 20 frames per second range at times. Sometimes it's up at 30 to 40. It's kind of going all over the place. It's uncapped. It's not locked in. And that's also creating issues for some people. And the Xbox Series S version of the game is looking incredibly blurry. It's definitely looking fuzzy McBlur in the house. So the Xbox Series S version, definitely skip that one if you have something else, because that one is not looking good whatsoever. So there's just a number of issues across the board. Now, even though that there's all of those issues, the game is still reviewing very well, still looking very good overall from just the gameplay and what they've shown off. But I want to get into why this is a bad look overall. So I do want to go over to some of the reviewers that have been fiercely defending their point and talking about this. So apparently they got the news that there was going to be microtransactions in the game, and many of the reviewers who were talking about how incredible the game was and everything did not mention that to their audience, or simply said they didn't know about it or it could become paid, even though Capcom sent over saying that, hey, look, there will be paid DLC and there's a guide as well. So many of the reviewers, Fighting Cowboy on Twitter actually says that they were upfront about it, but it seems like people left that out of the reviews. Also, Susie Hunter as well, she made a comment in her video saying that, hey, some of this stuff could be paid DLC.
The Rift Crystal system is an interesting balance tool because as you level up, the selection of pawns does as well, making them cost less Rift Crystals. In all of my time playing DD2, I found a ton of RC and never really struggled to summon any particular pawn to get through my adventures. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the future Capcom sells this in-game currency
that actually ended up being paid DLC, but she definitely got a review embargo just like Fighting Cowboy and other people, and it was listed in there what was going to be there. So either they did not review it or did not care to let people know ahead of time that this was going to be a thing. Now, once again, many of them have stated that they never needed to use it or there wasn't anything like that, and they've also both put up messages that have details in terms of their thought process. I will put that up for you guys to read in terms of things. I'm not demonizing them or saying that they're wrong in terms of how things are done, but I do feel that if a game has microtransactions, even if it's not enabled when you're playing it beforehand, if you're a content creator and a game has microtransactions that's going to be part of the game and they send that over to you, you should absolutely make sure that you include that in your review, because it's still going to be a factor in there. Yes, you can earn everything in game, but people are going to want to know if microtransactions are part of the experience in any way, shape, or form, and how it could potentially affect the game in their own experience. Maybe not in your own, but in theirs it could. Now, I do want to give just a brief example of this, of where we've seen this before. It's optional, you don't need it, and you can earn things, but still it could affect the game. And I'm going to get into a bigger point in just a bit. So I remember playing a game called Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and that game has a lot of grindy RPG stuff. But if you want to just pass the time really quickly, you can simply just buy the experience that you need. But it definitely seems like they made you grind even more than what you would normally want to do in a game like that in order to get certain things, because they're trying to nudge, wink you to just say, you know what, I'll just pay for the faster level up. So that's something in terms of game design that could absolutely affect the enjoyment of the game if they're trying to sneakily put certain things in there for you to make things faster or easier. It could affect how much resources you get or what happens, just like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, I'm not sure if it's the same or as egregious because I have not played it, and it doesn't seem like it's like that with Dragon's Dogma 2, but at the same time, it sets a bad precedent. Now, I do want to get into a comment that perfectly captures what I feel about this. Now, I'm not going outrage mode and oh my gosh, boycott and all of that, or pirate the game. I'm not doing all of that. But what I am saying is that, once again, it's a bad look for a game that looked like a strong Game of the Year contender, and all positivity now completely, I wouldn't say wiped out, but a lot of it embroiled in this controversy when it didn't necessarily need to even happen in the first place. So there is a guy on Twitter, and his name is Carnage, and I think I might have said that wrong, but anyway, shout outs to you. And he says this, and I want to read this. This is very important. He says, just don't buy the microtransactions. Easy. So he's essentially, that's the counter argument. Just don't buy the microtransactions. And he says, no, for many, that's not how this works. The problem is simple. When you want to sell something, there has to be a need for it. It's easy for us to surmise that everything in a microtransactions list, take Dragon's Dogma 2 for instance, is extra or unneeded since you get it all in game. No harm, no foul, right? Wrong. When you try to sell items, you try to make a need. You need an impetus for purchase. When you start attaching money into items you earn in the game, who is to say, quote, the game developer were told to make sure that we limit X item because they are selling it as DLC. So maybe the game designer was going to put a super rare item drop on that hard boss, or maybe at the end of the hard dungeon, but nope. They ended up putting a lesser item there to influence folks to want to buy that particular rare item as DLC. Now, did this actually happen? Who knows? Could it actually happen? Think about it. Absolutely. Think of the companies that we're talking about here. You honestly think that they wouldn't change the mechanics slash game play slash drop rate of items to encourage players to buy them as DLC? As many folks view this as a slippery slope, which over the decades, it's clear we've been sliding down. Is it going to be that one day an RPG like this releases with a 14-page PDF on real prices of every single item in the game for purchase? Sounds ridiculous, right? But tell me something, if these companies thought they could do that and get away with it, would they? And what direction are we going in right now? Laughing face. I want to end this ridiculously long post with this. This is all a thought experiment on why people get so angry at single player DLC. There are thousands of reasons people hate it, but this is mine. If you're one of the ones that doesn't like single player DLC, why? If you don't mind it at all after reading all of this, why? And finally, if you are one of the people who says it's cool, they can do whatever they want, I just won't buy it, you are fully confident that stuff like this isn't going to get much worse over time, and if so, why? Okay, good talk. And I think that this is a fantastic post because this stuff is intrinsic to game design. Like, if you want to try to make a need for something, I mean, you're going to try to limit some things or say, okay, it's not going to be as much in order to get somebody to do something. Otherwise, you would have never done it at all. Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't have any of this. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 doesn't have any of this. Elden Ring doesn't have any of this. Final Fantasy 16 doesn't have any of this. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth doesn't have any of this. Fire Emblem Three Houses. So many of these big RPGs on the Nintendo side or on Xbox and PlayStation side, people are used to just being able to play the game and earn it. Drop rates are affected in terms of how the developers wanted to program and focus it, and nothing is potentially even affected by some outside money that you can simply buy just to get whatever resource in there, which could absolutely affect how drop rates and how the game fundamentally works from that level of earning items. Now, once again, we don't know for sure, but that is the scare that people have. And once again, you don't have to buy it, and it's not something that's required, but it's something that's still in there. And we've seen developers manipulate things like with Assassin's Creed Odyssey and the grinding there. So I do think that it's logical to at least say, okay, let's take a look at this and see why there's people on the other side saying, wait a minute, no, this is not a good thing. People upset with this, and the game now having mixed reviews on Steam. There's a lot of stuff to go over. Now, I do understand why some people are like, okay, you know, it's okay, it's fine, like, you don't have to buy it. But at the same time, like, how far will this go? Because this stuff never happened previously in game, because you never had this in any RPG when it comes down to it. In the PS2 and the PS3 era, I mean, maybe you saw it a little bit. I know Devil May Cry 4 had some nonsense like this, but now it's evolving to fast travel. It's evolving to more than just a few things here and there. It's getting more and more in depth. So I do feel that it needs to be noted that things like this probably shouldn't be in the game. Now, once again, it's still something you can earn it all there in the game. I'm not saying that it's wrong if you feel that it's not that big of a deal, but I do feel based off of how it was handled, how reviewers talked about it or not, or how there wasn't really anything about it. And then we found out day one, even though Capcom apparently was upfront with people, that's also an issue in terms of how people were reporting on the game and talking about the game. The fact that we didn't see it mentioned in a lot of reviews, that's also a problem. But hey, what do you guys think about this? Let me know. Is it a big deal to you? Is it not? Do you feel that it's a bad practice or a precedent? I think for me, that's really what it is. Like, this could spiral out, but hey, maybe it doesn't. Maybe this is about as far as it goes. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other RPG and Nintendo Switch videos right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.